The call came through the intercom a little after dawn. "Ma'am, there is a man at the gate. He says it is an emergency. He claims to be your father." For a moment, I simply stood there, coffee cooling in my hand, listening to the hum of the security system. I felt that familiar tightening in my chest, not fear, not anger, but something colder, something sharpened over 7 years of silence. I walked toward the monitor and saw him, Frank Keller, in scuffed work boots and a jacket that used to fit better, standing beside a rental sedan like it was the last raft on a sinking ship. Before I take you any further, let me say this. This is an original story written by the author of the Revenge Pulse channel, built from familiar social issues with the purpose of helping viewers reflect, heal, and draw meaningful lessons. The content is not intended to depict any real individual. I pressed the intercom. "Why are you here?" "Frank." He flinched at the use of his name. "Maisie, please, open the gate. Say what you came to say from there." He shifted his weight, eyes flicking toward the security camera as if he could bargain with it instead of with me. "I would not be here if it were not serious. Things have gone wrong. I need your help." "You need my help," I repeated softly. I wanted those words to settle between us like dust. His voice tightened. "I raised you. That counts for something." "No," I said. "You supervised me like a foreman supervises a machine, only until it breaks." He swallowed hard. "Maisie, I am asking you to let me explain." The security guard stood a respectful distance behind him, waiting. My story, every ugly piece of it pressed against my ribs. But the truth mattered now. And if you are listening, I want you to stay with me. Every minute you spend here helps this story reach someone who might need it. I leaned closer to the speaker, my voice steady. "You will get your explanation, Frank, but not at my gate." He looked up, startled by the shift in tone. "Let me tell you how we got here," I said. "From the beginning, I was 18 the night my father decided I no longer existed. I walked into our small living room expecting a cake, maybe a card, maybe if I let myself hope too much a conversation about the community college paperwork we were supposed to finish together. Instead, Frank stood in the center of the room with my duffel bag at his feet. My mother, Beth, hovered near the hallway, arms wrapped around herself like she was bracing for a storm. "Close the door," Frank said. His voice had the weight of a verdict. I set my keys down slowly. "What is going on?" "You are leaving tonight." He pushed the duffel toward me with the toe of his boot. "This is not your home anymore." My throat went dry. "Dad, do not call me that." He snapped. "Not after what I found out." Beth flinched. She did not speak. I stepped back, feeling the ground tilt. "What did you find out?" Frank lifted a stack of documents I had never seen. "You were not supposed to be mine. You are the mistake I spent 18 years covering." His jaw tightened. "And I am done covering." My voice trembled. "I did nothing to you. You exist," he said. "That is enough," Beth finally whispered. "Frank," he turned on her. "You agreed. You said we could not live like this anymore." Her eyes darted to mine, full of guilt she would never name. "Maisie." "I am sorry." "No," Frank said, cutting her off. "She is not your burden. Not anymore." I tried to breathe, but the room felt too small. "Where am I supposed to go?" "That is not my concern," he said. "College is off the table. I called the school. Told them you would not be attending. FAFSA is withdrawn. You are on your own now." You did what my voice cracked. "You think I would keep financing a lie?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded bill. "Here, $48, more than you deserve." I stared at the money, feeling something inside me tear. "You are throwing away your daughter. You were never my daughter," he said quietly. "You were my consequence." Beth reached out as if to touch my arm. then let her hand fall. Please just go before he gets worse. Frank opened the front door and stepped aside, giving me the kind of look he once reserved for broken machinery. Take your bag and leave. I picked up the duffel. It felt heavier than anything I had carried before. As I stepped into the cold night, he added one last sentence, flat, final, unearned. Do not come back. I slept in my broken Honda that first night, the engine dead and the heater long gone. By morning, my breath clung to the windows in thin white patches. I sat there shivering, replaying Frank's words until they sounded like they were carved into my bones. When I finally worked up the nerve to drive into town and ask for my fast food job back, the manager met me at the door. She would not even let me step inside. Maisie, she said softly, your father called. He said you were stealing. I cannot have trouble here. I never stole anything. I believe you, she whispered, but believing you does not protect my store. She pressed a $20 bill into my hand. Take this and go somewhere warm. The humiliation was as sharp as the wind outside. By afternoon, the rumors had already spread. Youngstown moved fast when it smelled blood. At the corner store, Mrs. Dwyer refused to meet my eyes. Your father says you are using pills, she murmured. I am not. She stepped back anyway, clutching her purse. Sidney Pike texted me only once I cannot be involved. When I checked our shared savings account money we had collected from part-time jobs over the years, it was empty. She had withdrawn every last dollar. I called her, Sidney. Why would you do that? Your dad said you might blow it on drugs. She said, I am just protecting what is left. You stole from me. I am protecting myself, she replied, and hung up. That evening, I drove to Mason Briggs's house because I still wanted to believe at least one person would listen. Instead, he leaned against his porch railing, smirking. You look rough. Maisie, he said. Your dad says you finally snapped. You know he is lying. Maybe. He shrugged, but his version is more entertaining. When I turned away, he laughed. Hours later, a photo of me washing my hair in a gas station sink appeared online with a caption he thought was clever. The comments piled up fast. I closed my phone and sat in the dark Honda, hugging my knees for warmth. Every breath shook. By the third night, I realized this was not temporary. This was exile. The ice storm hit on a Thursday night. The kind of cold that presses into your ribs and stays there. My Honda finally gave out behind an abandoned warehouse, the engine clicking once before dying completely. I sat there until my fingers stopped listening to me. When the numbness crept up my arms, I pushed the door open and stumbled toward the only light I could see. A flickering neon sign glowed above a narrow storefront Whitford's Diner. I pushed through the door, teeth chattering so hard I could barely speak. A woman with silver-streaked hair looked up from behind the counter. Her eyes narrowed, not in suspicion, but in recognition of pain. Sit down before you fall down, she said. I slid into the nearest booth, my shaking hands pressed between my knees. She placed a steaming mug of coffee in front of me without asking. I cannot pay for that, I whispered. Good thing I did not ask you to. She set a bowl of soup beside it. Eat before you pass out. The warmth hit my throat and sent tears down my face. She noticed, but pretended not to. After a moment, she said, Name's Nora, and you look like someone who needs a place to breathe. My dad kicked me out. I managed. He told everyone I am dangerous. Nora snorted. Funny. You look like a kid who has been freezing in a car, not terrorizing the town. I tried to laugh, but it broke halfway. She leaned on the table, voice low. I do not know what he said, and I do not care. You need work. Yes, I whispered. You need somewhere to sleep. I nodded. Then clean dishes in the mornings, help with prep in the afternoons. And you can have the cot in the storage room. Deal. My breath caught. Why would you help me? Nora shrugged. Because someone should have, long before you walked in here, and for the first time in days, I felt something close to safety. Within a week at the diner, Nora had me running morning prep like I had been born doing it. I liked the rhythm chop, scrub, breathe. It kept my mind from drifting back to Youngstown and the lies spreading there like smoke. One morning, a man took a seat at the counter mid-30s, worn hoodie, eyes that missed nothing. He watched me reorganize Nora's chaotic order sheets into a simple rotation. When I finished, he tapped the counter gently. "You did all that in your head?" he asked. I hesitated. "It is not hard. Nora's system just needed structure." Nora smirked. "Do not let her fool you. Caleb, she is the only reason I know what day it is." He turned to me. "Caleb Mercer." He said, "I run a small tech startup in Raleigh." The word tech made my stomach knot. "I do not know anything about that." "Maybe you do," he said. "My team has been trying to solve a scheduling problem for months. Too many variables, too much chaos. I wonder how you would handle it." He slid a napkin toward me and explained the issue. I listened, pen hovering, my mind sorting the pieces before I even realized it. In under a minute, I sketched a rotating fairness loop that redistributed the burden evenly. Caleb stared down at the napkin. "This is exactly what we needed." I shrugged, embarrassed. "It is just logic." "No," he said, voice firmer. "It is not just anything." Nora leaned over my shoulder. "Told you she is sharp." Caleb folded the napkin carefully. "Maisie, have you ever considered learning to code?" I shook my head. "I cannot afford classes." "You would not need them," he said. "If you are willing to work, I can teach you. And if you are interested, I can offer a part-time internship. $7,500 to start." My breath stalled. "Why would you offer that to someone you just met?" "Because talent hides in the places people overlook," he said. "And because you remind me of someone who refused to stay where the world put them." Nora crossed her arms, pretending not to smile. "Go on, kid. Take the chance." I looked at them, one stranger, one lifeline, and felt something shift inside me. "Okay," I said. "I will learn." By the time I settled into Raleigh and started my internship with Caleb, the distance from Youngstown felt like oxygen. But distance has a way of fooling you into thinking the past cannot reach across it. Mine did one quiet afternoon after work, when a man in a pressed jacket approached me outside the office. "Maisie Keller," he asked. My pulse kicked. "Who are you?" "Name's Donovan Price." "I am a private investigator." He hesitated. "Your friend Nora said you might want answers." I almost walked away, but something in his tone stopped me. "What answers?" He opened a folder. "Financial records from your grandmother's estate. Withdrawals authorized by your father." "That is impossible," I whispered. He slid a page forward. $210,000, over 3 years, all signed under power of attorney. My hands tightened around the folder. My father said I drained her savings. He told people I stole from her. Donovan shook his head. Every cent went to accounts in his name. He used multiple small transfers to avoid bank flags. Classic concealment. He closed the folder gently. "Your grandmother intended that money for you." It felt like the world shifted under me. "He took everything. He took more than money," Donovan said softly. "He took the narrative." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I stepped aside and answered. A girl's voice came through, thin and shaking. "Maisie." "It is Riley." "Riley Thorne." My stomach dropped. "The foster kid Frank and Beth took in after they threw me out." "How did you get my number?" "I found it in some papers Beth hid." Her breath trembled. I need to tell you what is happening." "Are you safe?" I asked. "No." The word cracked. "Frank makes me do all the chores. He tells people I am troubled, so no one asks questions. And he talks about you. A lot." My throat tightened. "What does he say? He says you deserved what happened, that you were a threat to the family image. I recorded him. A pause. I can send them to you if you want. Yes, I said immediately. Please. A moment later, my phone lit up with audio files. I played the first. Frank's voice spilled out, steady and unapologetic. She was never mine. I only kept her so people would not talk. Throwing her out was the first smart thing I have done in years. Nora's text arrived at that exact moment. You okay, kid? I stared at my phone. Riley's trembling breaths still echoing in my ear. No, I whispered to myself. But I will be. Shiftwell grew in ways none of us expected. The first hospital contract came after a nurse manager called to say, your app fixed a problem we thought was permanent. Then another hospital signed on. Then 3 more. Within a year, the company valuation sat somewhere near $28 million, though Caleb was always careful to remind me. Growth matters more than numbers. Do not chase the spotlight. Build the foundation. I had no intention of chasing anything. I liked being invisible. One evening, as we packed up after a long testing session, Caleb looked at me over his glasses. You know, he said, you could take the title of co-founder publicly if you wanted. I do not. I replied, my name complicates things. Because of him, I paused. Because people hear my last name and think of him before they think of me. Caleb nodded. Then stay quiet. The work still counts. At the office, Drew Porter, our newest hire and someone who understood what it meant to claw your way out of nothing, leaned on my doorway. A lender is selling delinquent mortgages, he said. One caught my eye. I did not need him to say more. Keller Street. He nodded. Your father missed 3 payments. The loan is distressed. You could buy it through the fund we use for other assets. Everything stays anonymous. A small breath escaped me. Why did you bring this to me? Drew. Because I know what it is like to live with someone who twists the story to make themselves the victim, he said quietly. This gives you control, not revenge control. I folded my arms. Does Caleb know he will back whatever you choose? Drew said. So will I. I stared at the printed mortgage summary. Keller residence, outstanding balance, arrears, all written in the same blunt financial language Frank used whenever he talked about responsibility. I handed the page back. Purchase it. Drew did not smile. Exactly. But something eased in his expression, like he understood what this meant. Weeks later, confirmation arrived through a secure file. The mortgage was now owned by a fund whose thread eventually ran back to me. Frank Keller had no idea that every payment, every late fee, every extension he begged for would land on my desk. Caleb closed the folder after reviewing it. Are you ready for what comes next? I am, I said, and for the first time since Youngstown, I meant it. Frank showed up 2 months after the mortgage transfer, though he did not know that part yet. He arrived in a rental sedan with dents along the side and a stack of overdue notices clutched in his hand. When security called me, I already knew why he was here. Failure leaves a scent. I stepped to the intercom. State your reason for being on my property. Maisie, he said quickly, please, I need to talk to you. You lost the right to demand my attention 7 years ago. He glanced toward the security guard, lowering his voice. Everything is falling apart. The real estate venture collapsed. The bank says the house is in default. I thought we had time, but you thought wrong. He swallowed. If you could loan me, even a few months' payments, I can recover. I just need a chance I repeated. You threw mine out the front door. Do not do this, he said. I raised you. No, I said. You supervised me like a liability you could not write off. His jaw tightened. You are enjoying this. I am stating the truth. I pulled up his account on my phone, and it seems you are 2 months behind on your mortgage. He hesitated. The lender is impossible. They refuse to negotiate. I let the silence stretch before saying, I know. I own the mortgage. His face drained of color. What you heard me, I said calmly. Every extension you begged for came across my desk. Every late fee you grumbled about was approved by me. Maisie, listen, no. You will listen. My voice stayed low. You told the town I was a thief. You told my employer I was unstable. You told your wife's foster child who reached out to me that I was dangerous. You destroyed my name to keep your crime hidden. Security shifted slightly, sensing the tension. Frank shook his head. I can fix all of that. I can apologize. Just help me keep the house. The house you paid for with money stolen from my grandmother, I asked. He froze. I pressed a button on my phone. I am applying a small credit to your balance. He exhaled in relief until I spoke again. $48, the amount you handed me the night you threw me out. His mouth fell open. Maisie, you asked for a chance, I said. This is the only one you get. Security approached him. He lifted his hands helplessly. Please, he said. I am your father. I met his gaze through the camera, and I survived you. They escorted him away as he called my name, the sound fading into the morning air. I ended the intercom connection without another word. I returned to Youngstown in late spring, when the air finally stopped biting and the streets looked almost merciful. The duplex that once belonged to my grandmother sat quiet at the end of the block, peeling paint, sagging porch still. It felt like a place waiting for a different ending. Nora stood beside me, hands on her hips. So this is it, she said. The building you kept talking about. This is it, I replied. I want to turn it into a transitional home. A place for girls who are aging out of foster care. No judgment, no conditions. You are doing what someone should have done for you, she murmured. About time the world sees what you built. Inside. Contractors were already working. Fresh walls, new wiring, bunk rooms forming from the skeleton of the old house. Riley Thorne arrived that afternoon, clutching a backpack. Her voice wavered when she said, You really meant it. I can stay here for as long as you need. I told her, This place exists because kids like you deserve space to breathe. She blinked fast, nodding. Later, as we walked out onto the porch, I saw Beth standing on the sidewalk, hands twisting together. She looked smaller without Frank beside her. Maisie, she said, stopping a few feet away. I heard what you were doing. I wanted to say I am sorry. I was not brave. You were afraid. I said quietly. Fear is not the same as cruelty, but it still leaves scars. She nodded, tears gathering. Can I ever make it right? I handed her a brochure for Whitford Home. Help someone else the way you could not help me. She held it against her chest. Riley called from the doorway, laughter spilling into the street. Nora nudged my arm. You did good, kid. As the sun dipped behind the duplex, I turned to the camera crew capturing our opening. If this story reached you, I said gently, share it with someone who might need a reminder that survival is not the end. Building something new is, and for the first time, the future felt like a home I was allowed to enter.